As the clinical director of the mental health department at Henrico County Jail, could you give me an idea of how Back to Basics has impacted this facility?
Wally, we started the program 3 years ago, and at that time I realized one of the things that was missing, because the program is based on a 12-step philosophy approach.
Yes.
Self-help, mutual aid, self-governance, learning in the commons. It's a social model recovery program. In order to do that, not only do you have the 12-step philosophy and approach, you need a major 12-step emphasis in that. And we were missing that until somebody came along and said, back to basics. And it was like a miraculous timing, because I had just said to the sheriff, this is what we're missing. All of a sudden, there appeared Back to Basics.
And brought it in from the 12-step community here in the Richmond area.
Yeah, there were initially, I would say, something like 50 people who came from the outside, a total over a period of time, to help start Back to Basics here inside this jail facility.
That's phenomenal
support.
It's
phenomenal, absolutely. Now what happened was, over the time, and I guess this went on for 4, 5, maybe even 6 months, but the people within the program were then trained, oriented, ready to take it over, and that gradually, that process took place.
Made the transition to where it was a self-contained, standalone program
and it fit
within the walls.
Yeah, fit ideally into this program, because that's the design of the program, is for the inmates to facilitate the programs themselves. How do you best learn?
Yes.
Social learning in the commons, in the environment in which you live, which is how we all learn, and they facilitate. And how do you learn anyway? The best way to learn is to teach, and of course when you talk about the 12-step, the way to keep it is to give it away.
Yes.
So it was a perfect match.
I'm glad to see that it was, because the results speak for themselves. You do have a number of people that are now alumni of the program and of the facility. And what are they doing in terms of continuing to carry this message? Yeah,
the program has expanded. We started out as you've heard before, the sheriff has mentioned, we started out with 36 beds. We now have 220, and it continues to grow. So the program has evolved by stages. People go through Back to Basics anywhere. Some have been through 2 or 3 times. Some have been through the sessions 10 times. And so now it has actually gone to the street. Our program is called RISE, Recovery in a Secure Environment. And we have a program called Rise to the Street, which is our alumni group and program on the outside. And those folks are continuing with the Back to Basics program on the street. So your contribution,
that's amazing.
Yeah, your contribution, Jim Houck's contribution, you guys coming here and supporting what we're doing, and the gift of books, phenomenal. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to witness the miracles that are happening at the Henrico County facility.
Even, our goal now is not only to have it continue to expand and emerge, as we call it, within the institutions of Henrico County, but that expand to the outside and include other institutions, not only in Virginia and this region, but throughout the country.
It works. It really does.
It absolutely works.
Mookie, I'm glad that we have this opportunity to spend a couple of minutes together to talk about Back to Basics. How long have you been involved in Back to Basics here at the Henrico facility?
I've been in Back to Basics since February. Actually, I have moved on to a group called Recovery Dynamics.
That is the advanced, yes.
Right, of Back to Basics. I've been in there for like maybe 3 months. So I was in Back to Basics for 6 months.
6 months before moving on to the advanced program.
Right.
And during that period of time, is there anything that was more significant than anything else in terms of the program affecting you? What affected you the most?
The way they broke the 12 steps down, because at first it was more so like in the book, it's just, I don't know, very formal, just da, 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 and it gets kind of dragging. And in the beginning, Back to Basics was somewhat like that too, because as one of my fellow community members stated, we used to just read it, hurry up, get through it, and hope we'd be done. You know, so it wasn't a lot we were getting out of that.
But once you learn and then can add your own experience to it, then it becomes alive.
Right.
Yes.
That's how you bring it to life. You place yourself in the 12 steps as well as the 12 steps in your life, and that's how you can have a good, complete understanding of it.
Did the fourth and fifth steps cause you any problems?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fourth step for the most part. Because I think in the beginning, all I kept on thinking about is when they say doing inventory of yourself, oh my God, I can only imagine all the stuff I done, you know, bad. But I didn't look at it as a form of, not only do I focus on the negative stuff, but it's a positive side to the negative side.
The assets as well as the
Right.
liabilities.
And that's what made it easier. And then having females that I could relate to very well, that helped me to go along with the fifth step.
And you shared it right here in the facility.
Yes.
Trina, it's great to have the opportunity to meet you and to see the excitement and all of the enthusiasm that's radiating from this group as a result of Back to Basics. It is the kindergarten. It's the first program to introduce people to the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and to the 12 Steps of Recovery. How did you feel going back to kindergarten?
Well, I felt that back to kindergarten is where I needed to start from. I had been going through so many different changes in my life and not understanding them fully. So once I got to reading into the steps, I realized that this is what's going on in my life, you know, with my addiction and everything. I never realized exactly what addiction was. I always thought that addiction was just, you know, when you're addicted to drugs, and an addict being this low-down person, you know. And once I started reading, going back to kindergarten, back to basics, I realized that, you know, me as a woman, I'm addicted to so many different things, and step one of Back to Basics showed me that.
In terms of the essence of the spirituality, when did your spiritual awakening take place?
My spiritual awakening took place when I met you and your wife, and we were sitting in a circle, and you was telling us about the Back to Basics and the Big Book, which none of that I understood until I met you, and you started explaining, and then I was sitting there and I went, "Oh, George, I think I finally got this."
And I actually saw that taking place
Yes,
right
you
before
did.
my very eyes,
Yes, you did.
and had a chance to witness your miracle.
That's correct.
And now what seemed to be just words on a page is alive and dynamic.
That's correct. And I can't wait to share what I have witnessed with others.
And that's what we want you to do with Back to Basics. We want you to take the words on the page and then make it part of your life so that you can transmit your experience to the next person that comes along, and make it something that's very much alive and personal.
Okay?
We'll do it
I sure will.
because that is the objective, is to explain the steps in a way that is so simple that you would just, as second nature, go back and put those steps into practice no matter what comes up anytime in the future, whether it be trials or tribulations, or whether it just be a new relationship, a new job, something with the children. You can apply these principles in every aspect of your life and find a new way of living. I'd like for you to take a minute or two and talk about this power that you've found. It's not you.
The power that I found that's not me is it's a serene power. It's knowing that no matter what, that it's not by my will, but by my higher power's will, so that whatever comes my way is actually meant for me. It's not a mistake. It's meant to be going on in my life, and that I don't have power over it, and I have to be willing to just sit back and go through it and understand and take time and just comprehend what's going on around me. Look, listen, and observe what's going on around me. I have to take that time out.
Well, that serene power you wear very well. And it's just such a pleasure to see this serenity that you are projecting right now. Charlene, such a pleasure to meet you today
Nice
at
meeting you
the
too.
Henrico facility, and have the opportunity to spend a couple of minutes with you talking about Back to Basics. How long have you been involved in Back to Basics?
For about 4 weeks now.
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
And what has come to you during this very short exposure to Back to Basics?
Actually, I just got the gist of it yesterday. I think when you came and spoke with us yesterday, something just fit with me.
Oh my, another one of the transformations.
I don't know if I just wasn't adhering to it, but I just didn't seem to be getting it. Actually, I hated it at first, sitting through that group, and it was just, and then yesterday something just came over me and I just got it, just like that. And
Well, and part of this program is rigorous honesty.
Right.
And I appreciate that honesty because it's not meant to just be read. It's meant to be lived by learning and doing.
now I feel like I can live it.
Oh.
I'm stuck on number 8, but I think once I can make amends, I have such a long list. I think I'll be able to get through
Well, it's one day at a time,
it.
but it's also one amends at a time.
Yes, exactly.
Just concentrate on the next one and let the rest of them lie for the time
Exactly.
being.
I figure out sometimes if it's me I'm hearing or if
Oh.
it's really my higher power that's
That
talking
you get
me.
to practice for the
Right.
rest of your life, but that's also the reason for having a sharing partner, so that you can actually
Right.
talk it over with another person. And light comes through 2 windows than one.
Exactly.
You can decide whether it's a God thought or a self thought.
Exactly.
Elisha, such a pleasure to meet you today.
Pleasure is mine to meet you also.
And I've been told that you've been involved in Back to Basics for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
6 months of intensive Back to Basics work.
Yes, sir.
What part has affected you the most? What do you feel most positive about in terms of Back to Basics?
The most probably make me take an in look on my life, make me realize as far as my addiction, things I need to change, people I done hurt. It's my whole life, how my addiction actually started.
What you just summarized were all 12 steps in a
Yeah.
very, very succinct and very, very brief overview. But that's Back to Basics is all about. It's an introduction to the 12 steps. It's like going to kindergarten. We have to learn to crawl before we walk and walk before we run. And this really is the basic walk through the steps. Did you feel comfortable doing them again and again?
Yeah, I think that was the best part, that I went through it one time and then going back over it again, just constantly going over and over it. I found something different each time we went back over it.
Me too. That's what I have found to be remarkable about it. Even though there's just a few big book passages and there's just a little bit that needs to be done for each step, it's enough for me to get back into a second, third, fourth, 20th time and still find something new.
Yes, and that's the amazing part, because like in one of my groups I was in today, we was going over the first step, and somebody had pointed out when you're moving on, you find yourself going right back, you starting back over again because you find something else that you need to work on, something else that you missed out before. So you never can have too much back base.
Carl, such a pleasure to meet you after corresponding with you through the mail and be able to put a face to the name, and also to find out that you're doing Back to Basics here on a regular basis. Can you give me an idea of what Back to Basics has meant to you?
Sure. I've been here for 14, going on 15 months, and when I first got here is when I met you and James Hawk when y'all came down, and the words, you gave us a lot of encouraging words. You really touched my life, and it was talking about the Back to Basics program, and I had no idea what Back to Basics was all about. I never had an idea what a 12-step program was all about. And after getting into Back to Basics, first I had to learned to enjoy what I was doing. And I started enjoying
We
it.
absolutely insist on enjoying life.
Right.
It's a quote right out of the
Yeah,
book.
and making changes in my life. You know, I was tired of
That's
living
very
the way I was-
important
Yeah, I was
also.
tired of living the way I was living. And by me getting in the by me going through those classes where we have Back to Basics here twice a week and once on the weekend, 3 hours each session. And sometimes can seem quite long, but if you're interested in changing your life, it seems like the time flies by. You know, just getting knowledge of your addiction and how to make changes. And what really helped me was to the fourth step. I was stuck on that fourth step because the fourth step was telling me, you know, helping me to come to grips of who Carl was.
Absolutely.
You know? And
We have to get down to cause and conditions.
right. And
Because if we don't know who we are, we don't know where we're going.
that's right. And I learned one of the most important things that I learned was that I had a sensitive side to myself, and it was all right to be that way. You know, and when I'm out in the street, I always think I gotta have to be this hard,
Oh, gotta be tough, right.
guy, and that's not really me. That's not the person that my family knows. That's not the person that my real true friends know. You know, that's not the person that my kids know. But when I'm under the influence of alcohol or drugs, I can change my personality.
Big time.
Right.
And it's not pretty.
And it's not a pretty sight at all. But today, I can feel comfortable shedding a tear, saying a kind word to somebody, you know, and that's another.
Or even just radiating a smile like you did out in the audience earlier.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you were just beaming, my friend. You were just glowing.
Yeah, I was very happy to see you. I was very happy to see
And that
you.
was
because-
mutual.
Yeah, because you touched us when you even though it's just a few guys here that was here when you left. Billy, you know, he's I'm a co-facilitator back to basics, and he's a facilitator, but it's not. I would say like 3 or 4 weeks to go by that he doesn't mention your name or James Hawk's name and tell him about how the things that you brought to us. You know, it's a pleasure to have you. Yeah.
It's a labor of love to be able to carry Dr. Bob and the AA Pioneers message, and now you're a pioneer.
Right.
So you can carry it too.
Right. And
The simple message.
Right. I got that book on a Monday, and I just finished reading it today. And
Well, I'm blessed that we could be able to get it to you in time in preparation for our visit.
Right. And it's a pleasure to have that, and I've been marking all things that really has to do with me, that I can really reflect on. That's especially that two-way prayer. You know, how to listen to God and how to talk to God.
Critical part of the program.
Right. And I found that time to be like 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That's my time.
Now that is a quiet time anyway,
That's my
isn't it?
time.
Yes.
But I have to include one more thing into it, and I always take Dr. Morrow's advice, and I'm taking your advice, and I need to start jotting down my thought for the day. You know what's come to me.
And it's
when
only
I'm
so that
in
you
quiet
can
time.
review it
Yeah,
later.
Right. And like you said, to single out, is it me, or is it coming from God?
Yeah.
Am I right?
You're right.
You know, because like you said, we have
Well,
a tension to want to put our mess in the game, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked for 46 years. I don't think it's going to start working now.
But God does work in
does.
mysterious ways, His wonders to perform.
Yeah.
And you're one of His miracles, my friend. And you keep carrying that very simple Dr. Bob-based message because these people need to hear it. They're so used to hearing that it's complicated and it takes a year to take a step and no steps for the first year and wait. And that's a death sentence for so many.
Right.
So if
And
you
I-
can carry that message, that's a simple program
Right.
with a simple solution.
I see in that book you really stress that, right? You know, you really stress that fact that, I know when I was reading today, he was talking about the guy that was told to do 1 step a year.
Yes.
and you really didn't know who would tell him something like that,
Well, actually, I've heard it many times since.
right?
So that's why we're out here trying to carry the original message.
Right.
And that's put no blocks between the newcomer and step 12. And it's a process that can be undertaken in a matter of hours. And worst case scenario, in Back to Basics, in 4 1-hour sessions.
Yeah. And it's a strange thing to have that when I talk about Back to Basics, I gain more from it, seems like, than the next person.
It's just like when we read the book to somebody else, all of a sudden, aha, I see something new there.
Right.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
God bless you, Carl.
God bless you too.
Billy, it's so good to see you the second time around. We met last year, and you were facilitating Back to Basics then. And God has directed you to continue to facilitate Back to Basics. And I'd like to just take a few minutes in terms of, if you can remember back to like the first or the second time that we went through Back to Basics, what really changed your perceptions when you were early on, if you can remember back that far?
Yeah, I can. It seems like we got involved in doing something. You know, it wasn't like a meeting where we just sat around and listened. We actually felt like we were taking place in something.
Yes.
You know, especially when it first came out here, John brought it out here.
Yes.
And he brought it out here from evidently meeting up with you out in
St. Thomas
St.
Virgin
Thomas.
Islands, of all places.
and we actually pair off. You know, we had a sharing partner, however you want to call it, or a
Beautiful.
sponsor-sponsee. But we really don't use a sponsor-sponsee because nobody really has that much
Sharing
screen time.
partner is the term that is preferable. That's the term, again, that goes back to that period. Again, no better than, no less than, everyone equal.
But it's, I don't know, a lot of the little hidden messages, and I say hidden messages because it's taken me like in the last 2 years that I've been out here and actually participating in this program, even facilitating this program, I'm still finding little hidden messages in the literature, in the paragraphs. And like the part about the obsession, you know, how do you overcome this obsession to want to drink? And it's as crazy as it may seem, it comes from practicing the 4 absolutes. And a lot of guys miss that, and I missed it for a long time. And it's like, well, if I'm going to practice love and purity and unselfishness, then I'm not going to be thinking about the drinking.
That's right.
It's a
It
lot
gets
of-
us out of ourselves long enough for God to take over.
Yes, it does. And that's a lot of what this program is. Is like I said, there's a lot of little hidden messages in the paragraphs, in the literature, and I've just continued to grow from facilitating this program.
How the AA pioneers had this uncanny intuition in terms of how to link them together to make it flow into a process where you can start at step 1 in a matter of hours. It's step 12.
And something you said today, we experienced just last week in our Back to Basics course here. It actually seemed complicated to the guys. And I actually had your book, How to Listen to God, and I flipped over and looked at the back cover, and I told the guys about the 4-step program that it was originally from the Oxford group. And I said, a lot of times we put so many words that we complicate it, and it really isn't complicated. When you said that today, I just said, wow, I hope these guys are listening. You know, because I realized that from reading that book myself that this is not a complicated program. You know, it's very simple in nature, and it's just a matter of, you know, just finding somebody you can talk to and sharing with them, you know, about something that's bothering you, and recognizing the right steps to take to get past that. You know, why hang on to it? And that's what I have basically done all my life. I've held on to things until the time that I was going to burst. And even though I didn't burst, I found that I was constantly in trouble, like with the law or whatnot. It's like that destructive behavior was in me because I didn't know how to act, what to do. I was so full of just, oh, I don't know, it just confusion, conflict, you know.
And by going through that inventory and amends process, it gives you relief and release. It's
Yeah.
meant to take the burden off.
Yes, and
Love and tolerance is our code. Quotation right out of the book.
it is.
And yes, there are many intolerant people in the world, both inside and outside the walls, that is just the way it is. But if we can practice the principles, of love and tolerance, and realizing that everything we think, say, and do needs to be checked against the standards of honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. It gives us a new way of living.
You know, and it really shows in people's attitudes when they're working it. You know, I can come around you and I sense such humbleness and sincerity, and I don't know how much of that I've assumed yet, how much of that has become a part of me. But
A lot, I can tell you.
But I find that so special about people, and I think people that really are trying and working the steps in their lives, you know, this is a natural outcome. You know, they talk about the natural progression of the steps. You know, it's like you couldn't help but fall into the next step. You know, it's just naturally like that. It's systematic, but I don't like that word, but it just naturally happens.
It's a natural process in terms of growing closer and closer to this power greater than human power.
It's pretty special.
Well, you're a pretty special guy, and thank you for being a servant of this community by carrying the Back to Basics message again and again and again to the people that really need to hear it. Because as we have learned over the years, and I know you have too, is that many of them aren't going to get it any other way. We read the big book to them. We kind of take them under our wing. We make the inventory so simple in order to minimize the fear factor and get them on the other side of the fourth and fifth step as quickly as possible so that they can start listening to God and have God make the changes in their lives.
You know, I can remember the guilt and shame that I had built up inside of me, you know, would not allow me to acknowledge God. In fact, I found that I was mad at God, for all the good that does you. But I was mad at God for years and years, and just existed that way. And I see that in a lot of guys today, and this allows us to bring them a program of recovery. We don't have to deal with the religious aspect of it, and that's what's really special also about this program.
Basic spiritual principles.
Back to Basics, or the Art of Surviving, 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Session number 1, History and Step 1. Hello, my name is Katrina, and I'm an admin.
Hi, Katrina.
I want to welcome everyone to the Back to Basics Beginners class. Someone please read the preamble.
I'm Tormented.
Hi, Tor.
The original AA preamble. We are gathered here to the fact that we are powerless over alcohol and unable to do anything about it without the help of a power greater than ourselves. We feel that each person's religious views, if any, are his own affairs. The simple purpose of the program is to show what may be done to enlist the aid of a power greater than ourselves. The perception of that power may be.
I'm talking to Sheriff Wade regarding the program that he has in the prison. There's an article in the American Jails magazine. This is the September-October 2003 edition regarding, the title of it is Changing the Culture of Incarceration. And I'm taking this moment to spend some time with Sheriff Wade to talk about his program, to talk about the benefits of having this kind of program in a jail facility and jail environment versus the normal incarceration that most prisons and jails use, and the benefits of it.
The program's been in existence now for 3 years, and it's grown to where we now have 4 day rooms at our Jail East facility. We have a day room at Jail West. We also have a work release program for people that have been through this that are allowed to go out, and we have a women's program at West. So we've grown from those 20 beds to over 220 beds. And one of the things our security staff thought, you know, was too touchy-feely.
Absolutely.
Now our security staff loves it, and I think that's the biggest advantage.
What do they love the most about it?
The discipline and the program.
You mean the inmates discipline themselves?
Yeah, the inmates. Each of the areas elect the senior members who oversee the program. And we never lose control because the deputy's in there with them all the time.
Correct.
But they take care of any problems, and monitor the noise level, monitor clean rooms, and they self-discipline themselves. If somebody gets out of line, they'll make them do a project like write a paper or give a talk to the rest of the group. So it's been a tremendous. We haven't had a fight in any of the day rooms since it's existent. We have deputies that have worked in the program for close to 3 years now that have never written a charge on the inmates.
That's huge.
It's been wonderful, and I don't think it's something you can walk into a jail and start a program with 200. You've got to grow it from the bottom, because as the inmates progress in the program, they go back and teach other inmates, which follows pretty much the principles of AA.
So you use the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I understand that the program Back to Basics, which is a program to take the inmates through the steps in a quick period of time to get them involved in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and into the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and then you move them on to a program called Recovery Dynamics.
Right.
And that gets them to a deeper study of the big book and gives them some foundation for their recovery program.
It does, and I think it's very important that we keep those components in it. That's why we insist on it be a volunteer program.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, our judges love the program for the people coming and talking about it. We have a number of real good success stories of people that have gotten out. We yet to have kept figures on it, but we have the state of Virginia Mental Health is working on that, as well as Virginia Commonwealth University doing a study of the program now. So we hope within a year we'll have that.
And how long has the program actually been in place in the state that it's in right now, in the structure that it's in right now? How long have you been running it?
We started out with the first pod in August of 2000, and we've grown to 3 other pods down here, and then we saw the need to have a work release program, so we opened that in July, and the women's program opened up the May after the men's program. The work release portion has the AA component, where we have inmates that have finished the program, got out of jail, come back on Wednesday night and meet with the inmates that are currently on work release. And they help tie the people to the community.
So you have almost a re-entry process going on, so that someone's not going to leave the prison and just cold turkey back into the community without some kind of connection into the support system in AA or NA or CA outside.
Right. We actually have a number of inmates that have gotten out that are real tied into the AA community that are coming back and helping out. And that's one of the things people talk about. People being gone for 6 months before they allow them to come back in the facility. We've allowed people to come back after they've been gone for 2 weeks.
This is definitely exciting, and the article that was printed in the American jails is so powerful, and the fact that nationwide they're starting to recognize that we need to do something other than just lock people up. This is exciting.
And I'm not one that, I'm one that believes that people belong in jail, but I believe that the treatment should come with it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. There is a reason for them to be here, but they need to do something to change.
And I don't believe treatment has to be very expensive either.
And that was another question. Yeah.
This has been, the videos that we purchased and all are used over and over again. We buy materials for them, but.
What monies do you use to buy those materials?
In our jail, we've used a canteen money that's generated. And to date, in 3 years, we probably spent about $30,000 to buy materials with the number of people that have gone through it.
And that's materials you can use over and over, and it's an investment in this program, and it's a minimal investment for a maximum out. This is awesome.
And I guess one of the things that we realized from this program, and the mental health people don't like to hear this, but they don't need to have this hands-on as much as they want to. And a lot of programs, in order to have a group, you have to have a mental health worker.
Right, a facilitator.
And we're finding that they've done fine on their own. And on the outside, you don't have a facilitator running AA meetings.
No, you don't.
And people for years have done well. So they're very much capable of doing the same thing within the facility.
And when you run the Back to Basics, it's inmates actually teaching inmates about the steps and about the big book, and it helps them learn more. And they trust each other more than they trust anybody on the outside. So it has to be a tighter group that helps each other out, and they're able to talk about things then that they might not talk about to either you or maybe somebody from mental health. And this is always a good thing.
They talk about crying.
Yeah,
and
they
stuff.
talk about crying.
Yeah.
This is not
And
where
it-
they normally do that, is that?
And people, you know, people have said to me on a number of occasions, "You're just being conned by this." You know, that's the standard thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you really, you know, I've been in here at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, when nobody knows I'm coming, and there's inmates sitting in a room doing,
Working with each
or
other.
studying, so, you know, that's not conning.
No.
But, you know, really, if they are conning you, we haven't had any fights, we don't have any vandalism, so, you know, I would say he's conning too.
That's right. That's right. The job's getting done.
Yeah.
They're in the facility, they're doing their time, but when they come out, they're not gonna be worse than when they came in. Hopefully, they're gonna have some change in their personality, some idea of what they can do to help someone else.
I told her, I said, as of last.
We are live.
Okay, well, we're back, and we now have with us Captain Edwards, who is involved in the Henrico County Regional Jail East, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his involvement with this program. It's changing the culture of incarceration. Captain Edwards.
I'm in charge of programs and services here at Jail East, which encompasses all of the programs that are done educational and substance abuse, and library services and educational services here. And the programs we have here, the therapeutic communities are led by the inmates. They're given the material from people from mental health and structured and how that they do that. It's pretty much a 12-hour intense program that goes on daily over there. The staff oversees what they do and help them, give them support and get them the program done, and pretty much sit back and let them run their program.
So a deputy sheriff is actually in the facility with them at the time that they're doing the program, although he doesn't necessarily participate. It's all the inmates helping the inmates. He's just there to oversee.
It's a direct supervision pod, so there's a deputy in there the entire time
And the program is run based on,
for a whole 12-hour period.
now, in terms of this entire facility, you're in charge of all of the programming. How is this programming much more effective than, say, some of the other programs that you have going on within the facility?
Well, the most important part, like I said, is their involvement. They understand that they have to put themselves into it. They have to help themselves and help each other. It's a program that they have ownership into.
Now, I heard that at first that it was probably a little bit difficult to get going with the security. They were concerned about the huggy-feely component of this. Is that a problem?
It's a little bit of a change. Like I said, with direct supervision, with them being in there the whole time, it's a little bit of a change for staff to think that they're not doing security or overseeing the inmates the way that they normally would.
Right.
That the inmates have more of a schedule that they have to follow. But after a short period of time, they learn it's much easier to have them follow that schedule instead of the normal pod.
With all the free time that they normally have, to do just watch TV or...
Or get involved in an education program or some other type of program.
Right. And these are all volunteers that come into this program?
Yes.
And do they sign a contract when they come into the program?
Yes, they do. We have a waiting list of people to get into the program.
You have a waiting list. That's exciting. And I understand that you're starting to develop a reentry program where they could go out on work release and possibly plug into the community and then come back
Come back in, yes.
which that is such an interesting concept because most prisons or jails don't allow the inmates to come back in for a long
We have some
time.
inmates who've been out, gotten out, done their time, and they're coming back in helping.